Hi there, this is Mack with State of Flux, here with a review for Smallville Season 4. This is sort of a interesting season because by the sounds of it, a lot of fans don't particularly like this season, or at least of the first half of the series. They view this as the weakest season. And I kind of landed opposite. In a lot of ways, this season feels like a second pilot. It seems to take that energy from Season 1 and infuse it into Season 4. And it's building something completely new. It feels different in tone and vibe to what we had been getting with Season 2 and certainly by the end of Season 3, while also still being that same Smallville show. It's a restatement of Season 1 in a lot of ways, which unfortunately means we get a lot of the Freak of the Week stuff and a rehashing of storylines. And this season is really concerned with giving you the this is your favorite character, but he's not actually a character, he's swapped identities with this other character and he's acting completely different. And that happens like 5 or 6 times this season. It happens just like a lot. And I might be lowballing it with that estimation. That said, it kind of worked for me. As I said, a lot of people seem to like Season 3, but that, for me, was my least favorite season of this show. Season 4 brought new life and vitality to it. Even though we were getting more Freak of the Week stuff, it had a renewed sense of energy, and it had new characters that I was interested in. And it brought in these elements of these 3 stones that they're trying to search for. And the inclusion of Jensen Ackles and his mother, played by Dr. Quinn medicine woman Jane Seymour, was also an interesting component to the story. Jensen Ackles is fantastic in the show, especially in the first half of the season before they full pot commit to character assassination there, but that's its own separate deal. We'll touch on that. But I think I'll go through the characters and just kind of explain what I really dug about it. I'm going to be upfront. I'm not a football guy. So you might not know this about me, but I'm not into the sports ball so much. And the first half of this season is really committed to Clark Kent defying his earthly parents and becoming a football player. And this is where we get a peek at Mr. Mxyzptlk. Which is kind of fun, though they did not utilize him to his full potential, and I think that the world deserves a good Mr. Mxyzptlk in some form of cinematic presentation. Moving on. They found a way to make me interested in Clark's pursuit of the of wearing the sports on his back and restraining his powers and concealing his extreme powers. This is foreshadowing pretty brilliantly for the man that will become Superman. This is how Clark Kent hides his true nature as Superman later on, just done in a much smaller scale in a high school collegiate setting. And that really worked for me. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Lois Lane. Lois Lane is an exceptional introduction into this show, one that I almost forgot to talk about because I was saving her for the very end of the review, and because I was shooting it so late in the deep middle of the night, I in fact did forget to talk about Lois Lane. But Season 4's inclusion of Lois Lane is one of the reasons why Season 4 is so good for me. And a lot of that has to do with the writing of her character. They write almost all of her scenes like a screwball comedy from the 1930s and 40s, which really, really works for her character because it's something so different and a completely just like different energy than anything else you got on the show prior to this point, or really that comes later. Everything with Lois really, really works and gels, but it's also because of Erica Durance's embodiment of this character as written that makes it so goddamn compelling. And when she was first announced as Lois Lane, I remember seeing the publicity stills, and it was just, she didn't look like I had ever pictured this character, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I never watched anything with her in it until years down the line when the show had wrapped and I watched it from front to back. That was my first introduction to this character. And from the very first second that you see her, she captures your full attention. And every single time she's on screen throughout season 4, where she was never made a full-fledged cast member of season 4, your attention is just fully captured. So much so that it was a no-brainer that she would become such a pivotal character in the rest of the series. Not only because of her ties to the Superman lore, but because she's just that damn fun to watch. And it was a big pivot to get this character on the show, not only because Warner Brothers, like proper in their film version, wanted to hold on to that character because they planned on making many Superman movies, but also because it was a pivot for the show. As Chloe, they've talked about, was originally designed to become Lois Lane. That was going to be part of the secret, is she was going to be one thing, and then by the end of the series you were going to find out that she would blossom into and become Lois Lane, changing her name. They even teased this a little bit in season 3. But the choice to actually bring in a brand new character kind of does Chloe a disservice, especially with where her character goes in like seasons 5 and 6. But it really, really works because I think that the energy that Erica Durance and Lois Lane give to the show is so vital and so needed that it gives that kickstart boost of something new. And that's partly also why season 4 feels like such a restart, a restatement of, or a new pilot to the show, that it's declaring itself moving forward. Chloe gets a ramped up role where she is taking up kind of the role she had been having, along with infusing it with the energy that Pete had brought to the table, but now that he is gone, she kind of fills both roles as being consistent best friend, and midway through the season she learns of Clark's abilities, and that is where it gets interesting because she doesn't reveal it to him, so now she has the secret, and the leverage of the power dynamic here has shifted, and it makes for interesting television, and I really appreciated that, especially in the back half of the season that starts fizzling out of control because the writers are writing nonsense stuff front to back. We'll get there. Kristen Kreuk's presence as Lana Lang is always felt really well, and she is utilized in a way that I found interesting. They bring this like weird witch coven thing into the story, and that really worked for me. I enjoyed the witch stuff. Her getting witchy with it, that was something I had a good time with. I know that that is not the case for some people, and some people view that storyline as really weak, and one of the reasons to point to this season as it being bad. And you know what? On one hand, I get it. Ultimately, it goes nowhere, or nowhere particularly interesting by the end of it. It makes a killer out of Lana, and those ramifications don't really seem to be dealt with particularly moving forward throughout the series. But while it was in its early stages, I was really invested and really interested in it. And it brings in the Jensen Ackles character, who's really interesting in the first half of the season, where he's a really nice, cool dude, and he seems to have this anti-Dean Winchester vibe to him, where he's everything that that dude isn't in the first half of the season, and I really liked it. He's just a delightful actor to watch on screen at all times, and I like seeing somebody so different than the iconic character he would go on to play for 15 years. And he's really good. However, they ultimately had to write him out of the show because of Supernatural and make him the villain, and it kind of comes out of left field, and it's not executed most believable way, but he is such a gifted actor that he is able to sell what he can with what's given to him. I like this season so much, I think in large part because of him. But this is also the season we get to see Lex start shifting from being Clark's good buddy to declaring himself the villain of the series. And he has a line that pretty much says as much. But when we get a glimpse of what he is truly capable of in his ultimate sinister reveal, it's something that's powerful, and you feel like you've seen something extraordinary. For a season that has supposedly one of the weakest storylines, it has some of the strongest individual episodes. That one in particular being one of them. And I'll do my top 10 ranking of season 4 for a video, hopefully that'll be up in a week or so. But that's interesting, where we start seeing Lex shift from what he has been on the show to position him more where he should be going moving forward, with him being the true villain of it all. And then even more interesting is the father of Lex, Lionel, is shifted as well from being the big bad of the show to a potential sympathetic ally of Clark's. Though his role this season is ambiguous, moving into the next couple seasons, you'd see that shift, and that shift happens here when they do an excellent body swap episode. As I say, there's a lot of body swapping going on. Everybody's who they are, but acting weird, and and then sometimes they're not who they are, and they're still acting weird, and it's all a thing. But it's done in an interesting way. This season also provides for us a kind of ticking time clock for Jonathan Kent, where his imminent demise is always on the horizon, and the parents of this season are kind of largely forgotten in good chunks, but when they're brought into it, there is this sense that that Jonathan might not always be around, and that's going to be capitalized on moving forward, as we will see next season. But yeah, there's also some pretty great side characters. The return of Alicia is one of the strongest aspects of this season as well. She's such a good guest star. This is also the season that introduces us to the Flash, and we start building out our roster of the DC lineup so we can get our own Justice League or Justice Society later on in this series. And he's also played fantastically by Kyle Gallner. He's not the Flash that everybody knows. In fact, he would be Impulse or whatever. But Bart is an interesting character in one of the better episodes of this season. As I say, there's a lot of good ones here, and I'll do my full list, but for all the negatives this season has, its convoluted, rushed conclusion, its stone storyline that seems to go nowhere, with the unification of these 3 stones that have ancient power that might lead to witchcraft or a coven or Kryptonian whatever. It all, as convoluted as it is, I was there and I was invested, and it was filmed in a way that is much brighter. Season 2 and especially 3 got pretty murky there, and this one brings out the light, vibrant color that you associate with Superman once more. I think it restates and resets everything back to where it was in Season 1 to kind of give you a firm restatement of that. And because of that, it's my favorite season of the first 4. And it's a little more complex and a little more interesting than Season 1. And it's not as tightly written as Season 1 was, but it has the elements and the intrigue, and it's all present, and it got me excited to move into Season 5, which I have firm memories of it being one of my favorite seasons of this entire show. So I'm excited to revisit that. moving down the line. What do you think of season 4? Are you down on it? I like reading through the internet. A lot of people seem to really not vibe much with season 4, but I happen to like the hell out of it. I thought it was great. Anyway, let me know what you think of this show in the comment area down below, and stay tuned in the coming week or two for my top 10 episodes of season 4. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.